Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Wednesday, July 3rd, and this is episode 42 of Azeroth United. We're recording it a day late. Had some things come up yesterday that I could not avoid, so I was not able to get an episode in last night, but we'll get it in this afternoon, and by the time you hear it, it'll probably be Wednesday evening or maybe Thursday morning. But either way, we've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be covering the basics of season 4 of or phase 4 of Season of Discovery. Launch date, we've got the July trading post. We've got the big Shaman changes coming in the War Within beta. Woo! So exciting. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Mop Remix. We're going to throw some of that in there. So there's a lot to chew on, so pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if you have a particular topic that you would like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. Also, if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps out our distribution. So if you're inclined to do so, we'll be very grateful. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe. That also really helps us a lot. The podcast game is so weird now between Apple and YouTube because the Google Podcast went away, and it just really changed everything. So if you're listening on Spotify, you're good. You don't have to do anything. Just listen and enjoy the show. But if you do want to check us out on YouTube, we have a YouTube video going up that I am filming right now, and you can like and subscribe us on there. I do have some other content that goes up on the YouTube channel as well, and we'll be adding more in the coming weeks. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to go through all the news, but before I do that, I just wanted to do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW. I wanted to do a lot of alt leveling because I have a bunch of alt characters that I've been tossing around since the beginning of Dragonflight. My Warlock, who's level 64. My second Warrior, who's level 63. I got a second Mage. She's still in Stormwind at level 60. Same thing with my second Demon Hunter. I've got all these extra alts that... one of the reasons why I have so many alts, especially duplicate classes, is because each of my characters has a personality. And so some of them have more personality than others. Some of them are bigger personalities, larger than life type things. And so when I play a character, I get into the mode of that character. It fits the mood for me. So that works for me. And, that doesn't work for everyone. Some people just play the game for the numbers or for whatever your rating is, or you're trying to complete a raid or a Mythic Plus or PvP or whatever you're doing. And that's fine. But I like to create alts, and I like to give them all different personalities. Some of them have pretty in-depth backstories. Some of them have... there's characters that are related to each other. Oh, this one's this character's brother, and I do all that sort of thing. So, but anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. So I was going to go through and level all these characters up, and instead, what I did was I made a second paladin in Mop Remix. And so my second paladin, who is a holy paladin, I was having a blast with that, and one of the reasons why I made a Holy Paladin is because right now Holy Paladin is not fun on Dragonflight. I don't enjoy it. It's not really great for healing. But on Remix, you can kind of get away with having a suboptimal class because it's not really about your class. I mean, yeah, you have to play your class mechanics, but really it's about leveling up your cloak and getting your different abilities and doing all that stuff. So yeah, I've just been burning through content on the new Paladin, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. I have 3 remix characters now who are level 70. I've got a Shaman and I've got a Hunter, and I really didn't do a whole lot of stuff on either of those 2 characters. With this character, because I started this character after they buffed all of the bronze acquisition and all of the thread acquisitions. Holy moly! My cloak is... I think I have like 35,000 threads, which is more than I have on either of my other 2 characters. My gear is item level 400 and or whatever, 380. I don't know. It's higher than my other characters because the bronze is so easy to get. You just log on every day, do your three daily quests for a dungeon, a raid, and a scenario. Do each of your queued 2 scenarios, two dungeons, and whatever raid finder raids you feel like doing. And then if you get into a normal or heroic raid, even better. Yeah, you don't have to do anything else. Now, if you want to go through and do all the quest lines and do all of the story, and we're going to get into Myth of Pandaria storyline and the leveling process and all that in a little bit later. But I really am enjoying it. The first 2 characters, I didn't really feel this deeply involved. And I feel like this is what the bronze and thread acquisition should have been in the beginning. And I feel like this would have helped prevent a lot of the whole frog farming debacle that occurred when Miss Pandaria Remix launched. Because you gain power so fast that it feels good, versus before when you would gain power and it was like, yeah, but I still don't feel powerful. I'm starting to feel powerful. And yes, I'm still going to go into heroic and there's going to be someone with 900,000 threads and it's not going to matter. But I'm having fun is the point, and I'm really enjoying it. So we'll talk more about Miss Pandaria Remix and the kind of discussion on the future of Remix and what it means for World of Warcraft. But yeah, aside from that, I did a couple of time walkings on some of my Dragonflight characters, but that was about it. So yeah. All right, that's enough of that. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so the big news, of course, well, there's 2 really. We've got the announcement of the Phase 4 launch date for Season of Discovery, which is July 11th. Blizzard have already detailed pretty much everything that's coming in Phase 4, but they did do a video with the launch date where they kind of went over some of the things that are going to be changing with Phase 4. And I'll tell you, they're being really ambitious this time around, and not as ambitious with regards to the runes. I feel like the runes are okay, and they've already announced what all the runes are going to be, which is fine. But I feel like more ambitious is how they're handling the raids. Because if you have ever played Vanilla Classic, the level 60 experience, that original World of Warcraft game version, if you've ever played that, you know that when you get to level 60, there's really 2 things you can do. You can grind, well, 3, I guess, with PvP. But as far as PvE goes, there's 2 things you can do. You can grind your very specific BIS or pre-BIS items from dungeons. In some cases, they're your best in slot items. Blackrock Depths, Upper Blackrock Spire, Scholomance, Strathholm, all that, all those dungeons. Dire Maul, particularly, a lot of stuff comes from Dire Maul. So you can do that, or you can do raids. And that's really it. If you do questing, you're not getting anything valuable from questing. None of the quest rewards in the vanilla experience are really that valuable. There's a really good example of that. There's the quest where you have to, oh gosh, now I can't remember his name. Sylvanas' little love boy. Anyway, you have to, the Nathanos Blightcaller. Oh my gosh, my brain is fried. You have to go kill Nathanos. And when you do, you get a couple of blues or there's blues you can choose from as a reward. And when I first leveled up my character in Vanilla back in 2005, I was so excited about this quest. You needed a full raid to go in there. It was so much fun. You had to PvP flag, which was really exciting on a PvE server for me. And now when I did that quest again, or when I got that quest on Classic in 2019, it was kind of underwhelming because the rewards aren't that great. And so that's the sort of thing that when you are talking about the actual end game in Vanilla Classic, there is no end game outside of raids, because even dungeons are your pre-raid best in slot items. Your best in slot items are going to come from the raids, and they don't even come from Molten Core. Some of them do, but for the most part, you're going to get them Blackwing Lair and on into Nax. So what Blizzard is doing by changing the loot in not just Molten Core, Onyxia's Lair, but they're adding in Kazakh and Azurgos as instanced bosses. So you can go in and you can kill those bosses with a group and not have to fight every other guild on the server when they spawn. So, which is great. But they're also changing the loot in those level 60 dungeons. They're optimizing it. They're making it work a little bit better for the modern WoW player and the modern WoW player base. So that's really exciting to me because I like running the dungeons. The raids are fine, but especially in phase 1 or the early raids, it's kind of like wham bam thank you ma'am. You go into Molten Core, you do your business, you get out. So they're adding in difficulty for Molten Core, these heat levels. So you can get heat 1, heat 2, heat 3, whatever. Those aren't going to increase the item level of your loot. You're not going to get better loot by doing better difficulties. This isn't like running heroic raids. You're just going to get more loot. So if the boss would normally drop 3 items, you're going to get 4 or 5 or whatever. Which is, I mean, I guess that's okay, but really it's just for the challenge. It's for the challenge of doing a hard version of Molten Core. But I can't really think of anyone ever saying, hey, Molten Core is fun, but I wish it were harder. I can see that being the case for the later raids, Blackwing Lair, Encourage, Naxxramas. Molten Core as an intro raid should be easy. It should be a simple barrier to entry that you can get in there with 39 other people and blast through it. Well, in this case now it's 19 other people because they're changing Molten Core to a 20-player only experience. Which, again, I feel like that takes something away from it. You should be able to just throw bodies at Molten Core. I wish they would do with Molten Core what they're doing with the other raids, which is tuning them for 20 players, but allowing you to take up to 40. So if you go in there with 40 players, you're going to steamroll the content. I think that would be more fun. And then if you want the challenge, the heat levels, those are limited to 20 players, like Mythic rating is in Dragonflight. I think that would be fun. But again, without going into the specifics of, hey, this item is going to get 2 more spell power and it's going to change from plus crit to plus hit. I don't need to go into all that because honestly, it doesn't really matter. I'm not playing Season of Discovery. I'm not going to get in there and level up my Paladin or level up my Druid. I mean, I could if I was bored, but honestly, I've got way too much going on in life, plus the War Within coming up. It's like I have to choose which WoW I'm playing. I have to choose what I'm focusing on, which is why I discuss Season of Discovery on this podcast and sometimes on my YouTube channel. But for the most part, I'm not really getting into Season of Discovery and getting into the weeds of, hey, here's how the classes are balanced, here's what the runes do and all that stuff. Because it really is disingenuous for me to go through that because I'm not playing it. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because I wanted to listen to a podcast, or I wanted to create a podcast that I wanted to listen to. It was a podcast for me, and I've listened to too many podcasts made by people who are not really enjoying World of Warcraft anymore. And as much as I loved them, Ben and John from Azeroth Roundtable back in the day, that was a great podcast, but it went downhill as soon as they realized they weren't having fun with World of Warcraft anymore. So, that's the sort of thing I'm trying to avoid. And so if I'm not having fun in Season of Discovery, if I'm not really into it, I don't want to do a whole podcast about it. I will talk about it because it is part of WoW and I am excited about it. It's like talking about D&D versus playing D&D. I like talking about D&D and going through and making a character and doing all my stats, but actually playing it is kind of a pain. I guess a lot of it is dependent on how good your dungeon master is. But anyway, that's beside the point. Season of Discovery Phase 4 is coming on July 11th. Which is next week on Thursday. And I'm pretty excited about that because I want to see what they're doing. I want to see kind of the decisions that they've made for Endgame. And I want to see how they handle Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub, especially going forward, because I feel like that is, to me, that's my favorite part of Vanilla WoW. Going from level 60, Molten Core, Onyxia, through Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub. Once you get to Zul'Gurub, things kind of fall off for me because going through all the AQ stuff, I'm not interested in that. I mean, are we going to get the 4 dragons? Are they going to be instanced? That would be pretty cool. Where you actually zone in through that portal into the Emerald Dream and boom, there's a dragon you have to fight. I think that would be really fun. I mean, those portals are already there. All you have to do is make a mirror image of the little area that they're in Duskwood or Ashenvale or wherever, and but we'll talk about that when that sort of content comes available. That's like 1.8 content or something. Anyway, as far as the Phase 4 Season of Discovery, I'm really happy for the people who are playing it. I'm really excited about seeing what comes with it. If I were to get back into it, I'd probably enjoy it. But like I said, there's only so much time, and I'd say at this point we're less than a month away from pre-patch, and then we're less than 2 months away from release. So there's just not a lot of time to really dedicate myself to Season of Discovery. So anyway, all right, moving on. Let's talk about the War Within beta. So there's a couple of things about this, and I read through these Shaman changes, and I thought, okay, this sounds good. But really, what it boils down to is, one, they're getting a new buff, which is basically raid-wide Wind Fury. That's fun to say. Raid-wide Wind Fury. It's called Skyfury. It's the new raid buff for all Shamans, not just enhancement. And so it's pretty much guaranteeing Shaman a raid slot on Mythic raids, which is really all that boils down to. Because anything lower than Mythic raid, and you're just bringing whoever you can. If it's Heroic raid, if it's normal raid, you're bringing whoever signs up who has a good item level. So if you have a Shaman who signs up and they've got a good item level, you take them, especially if they're a healer. So they cleaned up the class tree a little bit. They've cleaned up some of the spec trees. They're giving Elemental the ability to focus more on nature or fire damage or both, getting more specific with AoE or direct target damage. Resto, they're cleaning up Resto a little bit too. It looks like, I don't know. I feel like Resto Shaman is in a good spot. My biggest problem with Resto Shaman is that they don't have really strong AoE healing. Like, obviously you have Chain Lightning, and you can sit and spam Chain Lightning and heal everyone in the group, but that doesn't really work long. So if you have a long fight, Resto Shaman's going to have trouble. They're going to start to have mana issues. So we'll see. I haven't gotten onto the beta yet to try it out. I have a Shaman, a level 80 Shaman on the beta. And I was waiting for this moment. I just haven't had a chance to get on there yet. So, again, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, I definitely want to get on there and try that out. But, I'm cautiously optimistic about how Shaman are going to be. But I'll tell you right now, Blizzard has a history of certain classes. They just can't let them be good for long. Monks, Shamans, Druids, pretty much any of the nature-y themed or classes or whatever. Anyway, that's a different topic. So yes, Shaman changes are coming, or they're in beta now. The new Skyfury raid buff is there, and so if you have access to the beta, check it out. If you don't, I will be doing a review of all of the Shaman changes. I'm going to do a video on that, and I'll probably try to upload it sometime this weekend onto my YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this later on, I will put a link to that video into the show notes. If not, you can always just check out my YouTube channel. It's at Denethar01. All right. Moving on. Oh, boy. Let's talk about Dragonflight. Actually, no. We'll get to that at the end. There's a new short story, and this is called Trials, and it's about Thrall. And I'll tell you, this is the most boring of the short stories yet. Look, I like Thrall. I think Thrall as a character, has a lot of potential, but God, they've made him so boring. It's so uninteresting. It's about Thrall and his son, and it's about honor and tradition and all the orc themes. It's like somebody fed orc detail to an AI and said, give us a short story about Thrall. I don't know. There's one more short story coming. I thought there was going to be 5, but I was wrong. Obviously, there's 6. So the last one's going to be Farron Lothar. Fairwin. Anyway, she'll be the subject of the last short story. So hopefully that comes out in the next couple of weeks. And then, like I said, I want to do kind of a compilation of all the stories together, and then see if we can look at some overarching themes and kind of the goal here. We haven't gotten any animations, and I know that there was some discussion about us getting some animations a la Shadowlands Afterlives, or the Evoker, or the Drakthir animations we got, or the Warbringers, the Harbingers. I mean, we've gotten animations since pretty much Legion, or was it Warlords of Draenor? Anyway, we've been getting animations for a while, and if we only get short stories this time, that's fine. But I'm just curious to see. So anyway, that's the Thrall short story. Real quick, just want to mention it's out there. I'll put a link to it, but it's not terribly compelling as far as I'm concerned. So, okay, the last item is the July trading post. Now, Blizzard puts out these trading post blog articles, and sometimes when you see them, you go, that's not great. But then when you actually get to the trading post, you're like, oh, this is much cooler. This is the opposite. This is like, I read this and I went, oh, well, this is going to be okay. Let's see what it looks like in game. And I went in game, and it's pretty much just as bad or worse than the blog article. And I don't want to turn this into a rant. I want to kind of stick to this is news, but I do want to say that I feel like the trading post has turned into a long-running problem for Blizzard in that they really don't. They're trying to add things that are interesting and compelling to the trading post. And I know of people who have thousands and thousands of attendees because there's just nothing good for them to buy. And they're like, I don't want any of this crap. The stuff that you can buy does not look good, or it's just a recolor of something that you get from somewhere else, or you could buy a set and then you could buy individual components of a different color. I mean, there's a lot of repeat business on the trading post in terms of what you can buy. But it's so the July trading post is deep sea themed. So the reward is a Murloc pet, or a Naga pet, whatever. It's a little baby Naga pet. You can get a fish mount. You can get a fish in a bubble pet. You can get the big transmog as the deep sea diving suit, which apparently does not let you breathe underwater. I wasn't willing to buy it to try it. And so somebody who did try it, or who did buy it, tried it. And it turns out you do not get to breathe underwater with the deep diving suit on, which is stupid. What is the point? I don't understand. I know that we're going to an island and then we're going underground. And so they're kind of this deep sea theme. But I mean, come on, Blizz. This is... Even the weapon transmogs. We got a bow. We got a fist weapon. You know, we've got all these Riptide themed transmog weapons, and none of them are very good. I don't know. You know, check out the trading post. It's live right now, so you can go look at it. But the monthly reward and the trading post items themselves, none of them are particularly compelling. So I will be saving my attendees this month, I think. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I really like the concept of the trading post, but I feel like Blizzard is missing the mark, and I think maybe they're just struggling to figure out what to add to the trading post. Like, how do we know what people want? Well, I don't know. I mean, not to be that guy, but it's your job, Blizzard. You're supposed to be figuring out what we want. So, anyway, that's that's all there. Man, the trading post is frustrating for me. So anyway, moving on. Last item is the MDI. We mentioned this last week, but the Great Push Group A is starting this weekend. So that's July 5th through the 7th. So that's Friday through Sunday. Yeah. And the reward for that is $30,000 USD, 6 teams. And then Group B will be next weekend, Friday, July 12th through the 14th. And then the global finals will be the 19th through the 21st. So if you really like MDI, especially the Great Push format, definitely check this out. I will put the link to the Radar.io page in there. But man, these teams are really pushing hard. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what we get in the first group action, because the Proving Grounds were one thing, but I know a lot of these teams are saving their best for either the group action or for the finals. So it'll be really interesting to see what we get from the MDI. It's nice watching. It's like watching sports. I played baseball and basketball when I was in high school. But I can watch Major League Baseball or the NBA and go, wow, there's some people who are doing things at a level I could never even dream of. So, I really like it. It's a lot of fun. And I definitely think you should check it out if you're into esports at all. All right. That's it for the news. Let's move on to this week in World of Warcraft.
Let's talk about World of Warcraft.
In Dragonflight, this is Season 4, Week 11. We are just flying through this expansion. We are almost done here, kids. I'm just saying. It's we're coming up to the wire. Tyrannical, Storming, and Raging are your affixes. Tyrannical, you know it, you hate to see it. Bosses have 30% more health and deal 15% more damage. Boring. Storming, tornado spawn around enemy creatures while in combat. I mean, I know some people who are like, oh, storming's not a big deal. And then other people who are like, oh, storming is the worst. Whatever. Storming is going away, so it doesn't matter. And then Raging, non-boss enemies in rage at 30% health, becoming immune to crowd control other than interrupts. I don't think this one is as bad as it used to be. It's still annoying more than anything, especially at higher keys. But yeah, Tyrannical, Storming, and Raging are your 3 affixes for the week. This is really... I'm excited about this because this whole section of the, what's going on this week in World of Warcraft that I've been doing for almost the past year, it's going to go away. I'm going to have to change the whole thing because while there is going to be weekly things to discuss still in World of Warcraft, the big thrust of it for me anyway was talking about what affixes. How many times have you gone into a Mythic Plus on Tuesday and somebody's like, oh, I forgot that the affixes changed, it's new affixes. It's like people don't pay attention to this stuff on a regular basis. So when you get in there and you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, because you weren't listening to Azeroth United podcast to tell you, what the affixes were. So, or you could just go on the internet and look it up. But either way, that's why I've been doing this segment. And it's going away. Honestly, there's no need for it to continue. I mean, I can still discuss it. And hey, here's which Xal'atath's bargain we're getting. And we're going to start with Fortified or we're going to start with Tyrannical at level 4. But really, I don't think it matters. So I think this whole segment is going to have to undergo some changes. I've got some ideas that I'm tossing around of what I want to do going forward and to talk about what's actually going on in World of Warcraft. Maybe even including some of the classic games and different things. But for now, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're going to continue with. So, Season 4, Week 11, Tyrannical, Storming, and Raging. Woohoo! So much fun, said no one ever. All right. The Awakened content for the week is the Season 2 content. So you get your Aberrus, the Shadow Crucible. In Zerlak Cavern, you get your Zakali Elder's World Boss. Your last hurrah is Zerlak Caverns and Time Rift. So you've got to do the Researchers Under Fire, you've got to do a Farak Assault, and you've got to do a Time Rift. And then you'll get rewarded with a Cache of Awakened Embers, which will give you a champion piece of gear. And you will also get the Sign of the Awakened Embers buff, which increases your reputation gains with Loam Niffin, Rathian, Sibelian, and Sora Dormi by 50%. So there you go. Yeah, and this also is the last week of Season 2 being awakened content by itself. Starting in the pre-patch, and I'm still operating under the July 23rd pre-patch, even though we haven't got an announcement. So if I turn out to be wrong, I turn out to be wrong. But if it is July 23rd, this is the last week of the Season 2 content, because when the pre-patch comes, all of the content will become awakened. So, yeah. All right. The Battleground bonus event this week is the Arena Skirmish event. So you'll get the Sign of the Skirmisher buff. Honor gains in Arena Skirmishes increased by 50%. I still call this one of the worst weekly bonus events because Arena Skirmishes, who gives a rip? If you want to do something without having an arena team, you're going to do solo shuffle, or you're going to get an arena team, or anything like that. But just random arena skirmish, this is dumb. You could pick up the quest, The Arena Calls from Khazra and Valdrakken, which asks you to win 10 arena skirmish battles, and you will win 110 conquest and 2,000 honor. It's boring. Blizzard, please get rid of this event. Or combine it with something else, have it be the PvP week. Or, even better, have a PvE item and a PvP item every week. So this week it's the Arena Skirmish event and Time Walking. Next week is the Battleground bonus event and the World Quest event. Whatever. Do something like that. We also have the Pet Battle bonus event this week. So again, like I'm talking about, combining different events. There's no reason why you can't do that. So you'll get the Sign of the Critter buff. Pet battle experience gains increased by 100%. So if you have some pets you want to level up, if you haven't been doing pet battles and you're like, hey, I've got some cool pets from Dragonflight, but I didn't level any of them up, now's your chance. Pick up the quest, The Very Best from Khazra and Valdrakken, and he will ask you to defeat 5 players through Find Battle with a team of level 25 pets. This one's kind of a pain, and the reward's not great because you get 1 ultimate battle training stone, which allows you to raise a pet to level 25. It's not super compelling, but if you're into pet battles, this is your week. I think this comes on every 7 weeks, so if you like pet battles, take advantage of it because it's not going to be here again for another month and a half or so. All right, the PvP brawl for this week is Temple of Hot Mogu. So this is the Temple of Hot Mogu with orbs that you've got to the resurrection timer is shorter, and it's like a hot potato, so you got to throw your orbs to your friends, and this one's okay. Whatever. You'll get the quest Something Different to win a PvP brawl, and you'll be rewarded with Conquest, Honor, and Marks of Honor. The brawls, so I was looking at all the different rotations for the different weekly events, and the brawls are on a 12-week rotation, and the bonus event is on a 6-week rotation. Obviously, the pet battle, I just said, is on a 7-week rotation, but that's kind of an odd little aside. The rotation, though, for the rest of the events is pretty standardized. And so Temple of Hot Mogu always comes with Arena Skirmish. And it's just, every other time that it shows up. So these things are very predictable. We know when it's going to happen. We know how it's going to go. There's never a surprise like, oh, we're getting this week. Now, it does happen where Blizzard will kind of change up the order around and move things around. It happened with Comp Stomp. I guess they were having some issues with it. But ultimately, these events are they're kind of known. And I'm wondering what Blizzard is going to do with this going forward, because I can't imagine that their plan is to just continue with this weekly cadence over and over again and through the War Within, or at least through the whole World Soul saga. So I think we're going to see some changes in this. I don't know if it's going to come right off the bat in the beginning of the War Within, but we might see some changes coming to how these events are lined up, how the PvP brawls work with the different content, and how everything overlaps. So yeah, I mean, it's, it is what it is. And these brawls, some of them are good, some of them are okay. I don't think any of them are bad necessarily. I just think that some of them are less good than others. Some of them are less compelling or less exciting. I don't know. Anyway, if you want to check out the brawl, do it. It's definitely something interesting that you can go try. If you want to get into PvP, but you don't like the battlegrounds, this is a good way to do it. So, all right. As far as holidays go, we have the Midsummer Fire Festival is going to finish this weekend. So if you haven't done that yet, or if you haven't tried to get the drop from the boss, I would definitely go do that, because it's going to end Friday at 10 a.m. So you're kind of running out of time if you are going to do that. The fireworks spectacular will take place tomorrow. So for non-Americans out there, this is obviously for the 4th of July, Independence Day, American holiday. And this has been going on in WoW for as long as I remember. I don't know if this started in vanilla, but it's been going on for a long time. Anyway, there's going to be fireworks celebrations every hour on the hour. And it starts on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it goes until Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific time. So if you are looking for something to do, you want to go hang out with your friends, you want to have a guild meeting, this is the perfect time to do it. I would recommend Booty Bay, because you can go sit on the roof of the inn there and look out onto the bay and see the fireworks. It's actually really cool. It's very it's almost very serene. I really like the fireworks celebration. It's fun, especially if you're sitting at home alone on the 4th of July. If you're an American and you're like, man, I didn't go to a party, I didn't go to a barbecue, I didn't even go to the park to watch the city fireworks show. What am I doing with my life? Go check out the fireworks on WoW, because you know what? At least you'll get to see fire. And you could talk to your work friends like you went to see fireworks. You're like, oh yeah, I was watching the fireworks. It was great. I could see them above the ocean. I'd be like, don't you live in Toledo? I'm at the lake. Anyway, the other event this week is the Dark Moon Fair. It starts on Sunday, and I always talk about the fair, and I'm going to continue to pound the drums of the fair. You can go get I think this is your last chance, or maybe your second last chance for knowledge points and skill points for Dragonflight professions. At some point, the fair is going to switch over and will start offering the War Within profession bonuses. And when it does that, if you didn't max out your Dragonflight professions, you're going to be sad. So take advantage of the Darkmoon Fair. You can go ride the merry-go-round. You can ride the roller coaster and get an XP and reputation buff. You can check out the concert there, the Elite Tauren Chieftain or whatever. You could go kill the Death Metal Knight. You could fly through the fire rings. You could do the race around the island. There's so much to do. You get shot out of the cannon. It's a lot of fun going to the fair. It's always more fun going with people, but if you want to go by yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. You can check that out. There's some really cool transmog that you can get, some vanilla transmogs, and there's some toys and different things. It's fun. I like going to the fair. It's a good little diversion from the normal World of Warcraft grind. So, all right, I think that's going to wrap up the news for today. There's some hot fixes in the blog post that Blizzard put out for the beta and for Season of Discovery, but we're not really going to get into all that because honestly, going through the hot fixes on the beta is an exercise in futility. If you've ever looked at the beta clients or the beta hot fixes, you can see that they'll change things and then 2 weeks later they'll change it back or they'll get rid of it completely. The one thing that I will mention on the beta is that they are getting rid of Retribution Aura for Rep Paladins. And their logic on that, I guess, is that, hey, Paladins already bring enough to the table. We don't need to give you a raid buff. So bye-bye Retribution Aura, I guess. I don't know. I kind of was surprised by that, but it's going away. So Shamans get a raid buff and Paladins lose their raid aura. So that's that's unfortunate. But anyway, I'll throw the hotfix links into the show notes. So if you want to go through the hotfixes, you can. But honestly, I feel like for hot fixes for upcoming content is really tough because it could change at a moment's notice. So, all right, let's move on to something new.
Let's talk about something new.
All right, so like I said, I've been getting back into Mop Remix, and I've been really enjoying the power progression in Remix and how it works with your gearing and your leveling, and it feels so much better now that they've buffed the bronze and that they've buffed the threads. I've already started buying transmog because I feel like I can. I don't need to save all my bronze for I'm eking out just a tiny little bit of upgrade. No, I can just I like that transmog, so I'm just going to buy it now so that I don't forget later in case I get bored with Mop Remix or anything like that. So, but I wanted to talk about the Remix game mode because I've mentioned this before, and I'm really curious as to what Blizzard's plans are for Remix. So we got a 3-month cycle when Mop Remix came out. We're going to get 90 days of this game mode. And I was at first a little curious as to why they picked Mists of Pandaria. And I thought, well, is this their way of saying, hey, we're not going to do Mists of Pandaria Classic? And then I realized, no, this doesn't have anything to do with Classic. We'll probably still get Mists of Pandaria Classic. The Remix game mode is a different thing altogether. I feel like it serves a purpose, which is, hey, we're going to plug a content hole with giving you something to do. We're going to frame that content in a different way. They're not adding anything new to the game in terms of content. It's the same. Mists of Pandaria is the same 5 raids that you have maybe run before. The quests are the same. The NPCs, all of that stuff, the zones, all of it's the same. What's different is your rewards. You're going to get different rewards from it. You're getting the bronze. You can use it to buy the transmog, but it's the same transmog from the raids, right? It's not like you're getting new transmog. So I started thinking about how that would apply to other expansions. If they said, hey, we like this Remix game mode, we're going to use this for a new WoW Remix insert name of expansion. And so I was thinking, what would be the most compelling expansion to do? And at first I thought, Burning Crusade would be a lot of fun. But the more that I thought about it, the more I realized that while, yeah, it would be a lot of fun, there's a lot of raids in Burning Crusade. I mean, a lot of raids. You've got your 3 raids of, tier 4. So you've got Karazhan, Grillslayer, and Magtheridon Slayer. And then you've got your 2 raids from tier 5, which is Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep. So that's 5 raids. So you're already at 5. Then you add on Mount Hyjal and Black Temple, Zulaman, and the Sunwell. That's a lot. That's a lot of raids. But if you really think about it, what are you getting out of those raids? What's the most compelling thing for this? Some of the transmog is okay. A lot of the transmog was not that great from the Burning Crusade. And especially for people who like to wear modern transmog, they kind of, there's this weird balance of people who, I don't like the old low polygon or the low res transmog. I only like the new transmog, or I only like the high res transmog, or whatever. Or I can only wear the low poly or the low res transmog if that's all I wear, but I can't switch between the two, or I can't combine pieces from different sets or anything like that. And that's fine. That's a different, that's a different topic. So if you're looking at which expansion is going to give the best experience, you have to have a good leveling experience where you can go through and you can have it tell you a storyline that's going to be like a through storyline, right? One of the problems with the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King is that those storylines did not go through, right? There was no continuation of the storyline. Yeah, okay, so in Wrath of the Lich King we were trying to track down Arthas and get into Icecrown and all that, but the stories were a lot weaker, and they weren't as fleshed out as the stories became later after Cataclysm. So you could do a Cataclysm remix, and you could have players level from 1 to 80 or 1 to whatever in the Cataclysm content. That would be fine. But then the raid content isn't that great. It's not super compelling. I can't imagine people running Firelands every day for 90 days. Nobody wants to do that. As great as of a raid as Firelands is, that's going to get old really fast. Same thing with any of the other raids, especially the Dragon Soul raid. Nobody wants to run that. Wrath of the Lich King, like I said, the quests aren't great. The raids are good-ish, but do you really want to run Trial of the Crusader every day? Do you really want to run Nax again? I mean, so many people have run Nax. I mean, I guess Nax would be a really fun one to start soloing. I don't know. What I'm getting at is, I think Mist of Pandaria was chosen specifically because it is the perfect middle ground between nostalgia and good raids and good questing and good storylines and having a compelling place to go and somewhere interesting that you could fly around the zone. You feel like, oh, I remember this. This is great. This feels good. I have a lot of nostalgia for this. Or for people who have never done it before, they go, wow, this zone is really cool. I really like the way it looks. And the pandas are funny, because I don't have any preconceived notions about pandas being for children or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So the only other expansion that I think could fit that criteria very well would be Legion. And I mean, add my voice to the voice of dozens of others or hundreds of others who have said, when are we getting a Legion remix? Because I think a Legion remix is inevitable. I think we're going to get it. You can earn artifact appearances, and you know, the gear wasn't great, and obviously there's no weapon transmogs aside from your artifact appearances, but storylines were great. The zones were great. You're going to have all your content, so that means that you can level through Argus. You could level through the Broken Shore if you wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could approach the Legion content. There's a lot of dungeons in Legion, which is something that I feel like is really important, and something that honestly Mists of Pandaria that's like the weakest spot of Mists of Pandaria is the dungeons. Some of those dungeons are really bad. Doing the Mogushan Palace is rough. Siege of Nizhao Temple is the worst. That's absolutely hands down my least favorite dungeon in there. But honestly, even the Gate of the Setting Sun is kind of rough, because you're running around a lot. You got mobs that come in from all over. You got the boss that doesn't want to die. He's doing bombing runs across the platform. It's kind of annoying. It's not as bad. You've got your Scarlet Monastery, your Scarlet Halls, your Scholomance, your Temple of the Jade Serpent, and Stormstar Brewery. Those you just fly through. I mean, 10 minutes and you're done. on a normal group, not even one of these super groups where you have somebody who's one-shotting everything. Legion, I think you'd get kind of that same thing. You know, you've got Halls of Valor, you've got Court of Stars. That would be a lot of fun. You know, there's a lot of the Archway. Oh man, the Archway would be a lot of fun. There's a lot of dungeons in Legion that I think would be really compelling. Plus the raids are really good. Not quite as many raid bosses in Legion as there was in Mists of Pandaria, but I think it's close. Every expansion since Wrath of the Lich King has had a reduced number of raid bosses, to the point where in Dragonflight, I think we had like 27 raid bosses or something like that. But either way, the point is that there are a lot of different pluses or minuses from each of the different expansions of how we could do remix again. But I don't think any of them have enough legs to last for 3 months. I don't even think Mists of Pandaria has enough legs to last for 3 months. I mean, we've got what are we, a month and a half left, and people have already started dropping. People are like, I already got all my transmog that I want. I leveled up 3 characters and now I'm done. I think 3 months is too long. I think what we're going to end up seeing is we're going to see this sort of thing come in at a 6 to 8 week cadence. Maybe you can continue it on for 12 weeks if you want to. But by 8 weeks, everyone can opt out and your character can become a retail modern WoW character. But I think, so if you go Legion, number 1, I feel like that's going to be the best option. After that, you go Battle for Azeroth. You can go Wrath of the Lich King. This is it for number 2. After Wrath of the Lich King, it starts to go really low, because then you get into the like Warlords of Draenor and Cataclysm, Burning Crusade, Shadowlands. I don't know. I mean, if you want to do something really special, Blizzard, take note of this. How about WoW Remix Classic? Yeah. Just give us classic content, not the modified versions of these things, but the level 60 2007 or 2006 versions of all of this content. Have us do WoW Remix. You're leveling through the old zones like they were back then in 2004, 2005, 2006. And you're going through all of the classic content, all of the original WoW content, but you're doing it remix style. Now we're talking. The Eternal Dragonflight wants to know what happened what happened before the Cataclysm. We want to know. They were there in the Burning Crusade. In the Burning Crusade, we fought against the Eternal Dragonflight in what was it? It was Black Morass and Hillsbred, Durnhold Keep. So, maybe they want to know what happened. Oh, well, what happened before that? Before we started messing with stuff? Well, here you go. You've got an option. You've got an opportunity to show people. They can see that old content. They can go and do all those old quests that they remember. There's your nostalgia. You've got raids. You've got Molten Court, Onyxia's Lair, Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub, Anchorage Temple, Anchorage Ruins, and Naxxramas. 7 raids. I think there's something like 50 raid bosses in Vanilla World of Warcraft. I'm just saying, that's not the worst idea that I've ever come up with, at least according to my ranking of my ideas. Everybody ranks their own ideas, don't they? But I think if we were able to somehow get Blizzard to do this, right? And yes, everything is low polygon, everything is the original models, just like it was back in 2005. I think it could work. I think that's going to be your most compelling content outside of Legion. So if Blizzard, if you're not ready to do Legion yet, do a classic remix where we don't do classic in the no changes sort of way. No, we're doing classic speed run way, where we're going to level through the game at the speed that we leveled through Mists of Pandaria, and you're doing there's 30 dungeons in 30 dungeons in classic. You can put all those dungeons in the group finder and have people queue for dungeons, just like in modern WoW. How exciting would that be? You could have a raid finder version of all the raids, just like in modern WoW. Oh my gosh, this is a great idea. All right. I just came up with a fantastic idea that I didn't even realize I was coming up with until I said it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. All right, we need to do this. Okay, here's the deal. Just stay cool. And when it happens, just remember, this was my idea. All right, let's move on to the weekly rant.
It's time for the weekly rant.
So I don't have a proper WoW related rant that I want to do today. I have something different. I started this podcast August of last year, so almost a year ago. And in the time, I've learned a lot about the podcast industry and business, or lack of an industry, I guess, is more accurate. And what works and what doesn't work, and how to become a content creator for a video game. And I've learned a lot about the business, as it were. There's still a lot that I don't know, and there's still a lot that I'm figuring out on a daily basis. I started doing video podcasts a few weeks ago, and while it's been fun, it's also added a different challenge to my daily routine, which is now I've got to figure out how to do a video. I've got to make sure my room is clean. I've got to make sure that I've got to do my hair. I've got to, I haven't put on makeup yet, but who knows? Just little things like that. As a YouTuber, somebody who is doing videos, you have to be more concerned with just what you're saying and in how you're presenting yourself. So I've had to learn that. I've also had to learn things like the technical components of how to edit a video podcast in Adobe Premiere or After Effects to create some of the animations that I use. How to edit a podcast in Adobe Audition, and how to adjust your audio files so that it sounds good. There's a lot that goes into doing a podcast, and that's fine. And I'm not saying, poor me, this sucks. I'm saying it's been a journey for me to try to figure out this whole process and how it works and what doesn't work, and what I want to do with this going forward. And so that being said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change up the format of the podcast a little bit. I want to try and focus more on getting some guests on the podcast. I want to focus more on getting more opinion-based discussion happening in the podcast arena. And I want to stick to things like the news and what's going on in World of Warcraft and things like that. I want to focus that more on to my YouTube channel, because people don't want to sit and listen to an hour-long podcast just to get the segment that they wanted. They want that segment to be a YouTube video. And so if I'm going to take those segments out and put them in YouTube videos and I'm just recycling my content, I don't feel good about that. If I'm doing content and I'm putting up videos, I want it to be something that's entertaining and something that's compelling that people are going to want to listen to. I don't want people to be like, oh, let me check out your new video. Oh, it's the same that you did in your podcast. That's boring. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that YouTuber. So what I'm going to do is, over the next few weeks and hopefully leading up to the launch of The War Within, I'm going to start transitioning away from my existing format of here's my segments and here's how I do things. And I want to start reaching out to some people that I'd like to have on the podcast and getting some actual guests on here that we can talk to. We had a great conversation with Ashlyn a few weeks ago, which was a lot of fun. But I haven't been able to get anybody to respond to my emails since then. So I think I'm going to focus more of my efforts on that and focus my specific creative energy into creating smaller format, 10-minute-ish episodes of a YouTube video, or not episodes, but YouTube videos that I can put out there and say, hey, here's my weekly rant, and put that into a YouTube video rather than having it show up at the end of my podcast. And the reason for that is simple. If somebody wants to hear me rant about something, that's all they want to hear. They don't want to hear me talking about which Mythic Plus affixes we have for the week and then me ranting about some nonsense. That's it. The podcast has become too disjointed. Each of the segments has its own personality, and that's a formula for creating YouTube videos. If I want to create those videos, what I should be doing is scripting the content and having it go out on YouTube in a way that is more compelling and more interesting than just me sitting here and talking for an hour. So that's the whole direction that we're going to go. It's like I said, it's been tough. There are days when I want to film and I can't. I've got 3 or 4 film ideas or video ideas that I'm working on right now that are not done because I haven't been able to finish production on them, or I haven't finished writing the script for them, or different things. I have some that I've done video on, but I haven't done all the editing. There's a lot of work that goes into doing this, and I have a job, I have a family, and I've got things that I do outside of video games and YouTube and the podcast. So I have to try to balance all that. And of course, my family is very supportive, and that's not the point. I'm not saying, oh, poor me, I have a family. It's, there's a lot that I want to do that I can't, just because of time commitments. So really what it boils down to is I'm going to be making some changes over the next few weeks. So if you really liked the podcast format and you're bummed with the changes that I'm making, please know that I'm working on it. I'm trying to improve what I'm doing and trying to make things better overall. I'm trying to give people more content in ways that they enjoy it more, rather than me just kind of, like I said, this is the podcast that I would want to listen to. I feel like it's even grown from that. I feel like I'm not even making that podcast anymore. I'm making something new. So that's all coming down the pipe, and I'll have more information on that in the next couple weeks. But yeah, definitely look for some YouTube videos, and if you're interested in specific content, you can let me know. My Twitter and my Twitch are both listed down below, but in case you want to hear me say it, I am at Denethar on Twitter, and I am Denethar01 on Twitch TV. My YouTube channel is also at Denethar01, and my email is denethar1@gmail.com. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me through one of those 4 methods. If you have specific content that you'd like, or if you have any questions or comments, whatever you want to talk about, I would be happy to listen. Well, not whatever. I mean, I'm not going to give you dating advice. That's not going to happen. But no, sir, I mean, I will if you need help. So, all right. That'll do it for our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. And I've been really trying to pull back from looking at the numbers of how many downloads I'm getting and how many views I'm getting on YouTube, because honestly, people are listening, people are watching, and I'm glad for that. I'm not getting the numbers maybe that some of these bigger YouTubers are, and that's okay, because I'm happy to have a group of people who like listening to what I have to say and maybe think I'm interesting. So I think that's pretty cool. So thank you so much. And like I said, if you want to give me some feedback, that would be great. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. Remember to be kind to each other out there. That's a real person that is on the other side of that keyboard. And, doesn't matter what they do. You don't have to be mean back. You can just smile and move on with your day. So, all right. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.